kicking it off now. My name is John Monarch. I am a multi-time founder in the supply chain space. I've been in supply chain tech for a while. And with us today is a panel of some high-powered CMOs in the supply chain industry. And what our goal is how can we help everyone fill their sales pipeline with leads? So what methods work, what methods don't, what, in 2023 is working out. So what I'd love to do is I'd love to go around the room here and get our panel to introduce themselves. And we'll start off with Charlie Ungashick.
Hey, John, thank you for having me. Hey, everybody, my name is Charlie. I'm here from Boston. I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, which means I am an advisor and an interim marketing leader for usually early and growth stage companies. Typically focused on product marketing, demand generation, account-based marketing, and very critically right now, it's funnel optimization. How do we, do what we need to do here in the webinar today, just really build pipeline. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on, and we'll refer to you as Charlie U throughout, so we have a little less confusion here. Samantha Foley.
Thanks. My name is Samantha Foley. Everyone calls me Sam. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Turvo. Turvo is a collaborative logistics company. We help brokers, 3PLs, and shippers with transportation management solutions. Prior to Turvo, I worked in energy trading and commodity trading risk management software. Did a little bit of time in the smart building sector. So the majority of my career has been enterprise SaaS. Like Charlie, most of my time is spent focused on demand gen and how do we bring deals into the funnel. So excited about this topic today. Thanks for letting me join.
Thank you for joining us. Jeff Lerner.
Thanks, John. I'm Jeff, dialing in from San Diego this morning, which it is cloudy, just so you all know. I'm also a fractional CMO, kind of like Charlie. So he kind of positioned that really well. My career has been, 20 plus years in marketing. I worked for Google for 8+ years, led some brand development and marketing teams for AT&T, Cricket Wireless, and a couple of other large enterprises. Spent 2.5 years at Flock Freight, which is where I kind of dove into the world of logistics and supply chain, leading their marketing efforts from Series A through Series D, and the last 1.5 years as a fractional CMO with a focus also on demand gen, but also brand development and kind of that go-to-market strategy.
For joining us this morning. And last but not least, Charlie Pesti.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks for having me. I'm Charlie Pesti. I'm the founder and CEO of Charlie Pesti, the marketing and PR agency. We help businesses from startup through Fortune 500 businesses with marketing and PR services.
Thank you for joining us this morning. So the first one we'd like to really discuss on our topic of pipeline development here is cold outreach. So really, is it dead? What styles of cold outreach are working? Cold email, cold calling? Is the rumors of cold calling's death, are those vastly overstated? So I'd like to start with Sam on that one.
Sure. Thanks, John. I don't think cold outreach is dead. I think when you do it right, meaning in tandem with your nurture campaigns, it works well. We've seen great success because we've spent a lot of time building the right go-to-market strategy to understand where to do that cold outreach. And I think everything starts with that foundation, which is building the go-to-market strategy and then understanding your ideal customer profile and who you're marketing into. So cold outreach coupled with that one-to-many approach from the marketing team works really well. So we've had good experience with that.
Yeah, and one of the big questions that we usually see about that is how people find their data. And I'd love to get the opinions of everyone on this, actually. So Sam, if you have additional thoughts, and then we can jump to Charlie and Jeff.
Sure. Yeah, we have many data sources. Obviously, there's the traditional ways, which is getting out at those trade shows, right, and meeting people and getting lists from events. We use ZoomInfo, which is an amazing database. We've got it integrated with our MarTech stack, so that feeds into HubSpot and Salesforce. And then obviously there's those lists out there you can purchase. For us, when we're looking at brokerages, obviously the Department of Transportation is a great source. There's so many places to source lists. It's a never-ending job, and it really is kind of the key to success in campaigns. You've got to understand your market and have that list to be successful.
Absolutely. And Charlie, you.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is there's so many new tools these days for outbound prospecting. And most of them are in the generative AI space, where it's just so much easier to customize. You can literally load in your ICP and your target account persona and your value proposition pointed at a LinkedIn Navigator profile, and it will pump out a really good tailored message. Trouble is that everyone is doing that. And so prospects are bombarded with these messages that feel better than they used to be a year ago, but now everyone's doing it. And by the way, everyone's pipeline is also light too. So this is where I think, to build on what Sam said, is what I'm finding works well is doing both, using these tools and better data enrichment. And I agree with Sam, the data is getting slightly better, even though it's pretty cruddy at times. To do the broad-based outbound, but then super tailored, human-only, account-based targeting, where you're really going across different personas and really getting to know the people in the account. I think both things work really well.
Great. And Jeff, would love your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Charlie and Sam touched on a majority of it, but one of the things that it happens all day, every day to all of us, and we're probably also guilty of doing it, is, the old-fashioned LinkedIn connect and pitch. As soon as you get that connection, you're immediately following it up with, hey, I have something to sell you. And when it comes to, kind of that cold outreach, which that's what LinkedIn is, and that in those cases is that cold outreach, it's also striking the balance between connecting for the purpose of eventually pitching, but also at the same time, again, LinkedIn is a social network to build relationships, knowing when and where the time is to go ahead and do that. And so I think we'll probably talk about that, throughout the conversation, but as much as we like to talk about B2B as business to business, it's still, person to person. And so if you're on the receiving end, you don't want to get the connection request immediately followed with, I have something to sell you, when you know nothing about that individual and their business. And so that's how you build some great pipeline. Get to know people, get to know the challenges they face, and then potentially offer solutions, not the other way around.
Yeah, I think everybody drive-by pitch.
Yeah, John, just to build on that real quick, Jeff, I totally agree with you. That old adage that people buy from people. And I was thinking about, there was a story, it's not from my BDR team that I'm advising right now, but I did see it somewhere recently where our SDRs were calling outbound. They were calling lower title-wise than they would usually be prospecting. And they were finding the connect rates were higher naturally, but they found out through discovery and investigation that the CEO had a mandate for this department that to improve efficiency by 21%. So that SDR now had a CEO level mandate from a business requirement that he then put into an outbound message to the CEO. And the subject line was improve efficiency by 21%. And then 2 quick sentences are how they can do it. And that got kicked right to the economic fire. Obviously, that's never going to work 5 days a week. But I think, really understanding, to Jeff's point, what the business imperatives are, not just what your value proposition is for a generic company, is critical.
One of my personal experience that happened a few years ago when I started the business, and I wanted to generate leads for my own business. There was a Gartner event, and they advertised volunteer positions at the event, and I signed up for volunteering at the check-in desk. And we were 3 of us, and practically 1/3 of the attendees went through my hands. I checked them in personally. I got their business cards, and it was super easy for me after that to follow up. Hey, Bill, we met at the reception desk. Remember me? I checked you in. You had this and that question. the connection was there, right there. And it took me like 2 hours in one of the mornings. First, I got in the event for free, so I didn't even have to pay for the event.
Nice.
And second, I got a bunch of leads. That was so nice. And I just saw the same thing. TechCrunch advertised volunteers positions at their upcoming event in September in San Francisco. So if you guys are out there for new leads, I strongly recommend sign up for a volunteer position and invest 2 or 3 hours of your time, and you will be blessed.
Yeah, especially for early round startups, those low cost, free, cheap ways of prospecting like that are critical. I mean, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, the one that gets a lot of attention is paid media, and there's a lot of different thoughts around this and a lot of different opinions. Specifically in our space, B2B, LinkedIn ads, but also less traditional ones in B2B, such as like Facebook or even Twitter. But LinkedIn and Google seem to be the go-to. So would love some thoughts. We'll start back with Sam on paid media and paid media strategies in 2023.
Sure. Paid media is part of our overall, diverse marketing portfolio. So as we look at paid media, again, it kind of goes back to how it fits into our overall marketing plan and couples with our email nurture campaigns, what we're doing from an outreach perspective. We probably second or third in our list of demand gen, like where we're getting the most bang for our buck in terms of conversion, is Google PPC. And we're learning every day. And to understand Google, you have to be learning every day, right? The algorithm is constantly changing. So I have a great head of demand gen who's running our pay-per-click advertising. We keep getting better. And as we get better, we invest more. We have not seen great success with Facebook or Instagram. It really is at LinkedIn. And maybe there's still much for us to learn there. Looking to get into a little bit more paid YouTube, haven't branched over into that yet, but really for us, Google PPC and LinkedIn has kind of been where it's at in terms of getting those conversions. And we've had good success. It goes back to your go-to-market and understanding your value proposition and your audience. You're never going to be successful with any tactic if you don't know those things. So with the right message, I feel like every marketer should be investing in Google PPC.
Thank you. And Charlie, you.
Yeah, I think to build on, Sam said it perfectly. You have to continuously measure and continuously innovate. The platforms are changing so often, so frequently. So if you're not doing like a quarterly account check-in, if you're spending any amount of money with like LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you have your account team accountable to you every quarter. Just so that you as a marketing executive can be up to speed, not just on how the team is operating, but like what's actually going on in the world of paid media. The other thing too is what I'm finding is, in addition to optimization, is the structure of campaigns. It's, used to be a year ago, people just put up great content offers. Charlie Pesti's team, for example, produces great content. You can use that to gate, form gate and put them on, posts in social media. And fill out a form, you get an MQL. Well, that's really not as effective anymore because there's so much great content out there. So what we're finding is if you open the floodgate and if you can do it efficiently, you'll get a lot more people having eyeball on your brand, on your conversations, on your content. Then once LinkedIn knows that those people are engaging in your content, then you can remarket to that cohort afterwards. And so the campaign structure of how you do, it's almost like the old permission-based marketing is really, really important. And that's what, from our experience, generates the most results.
I wonder what changed. I mean, I guess in 2023, it sounds like everyone has been putting out infinite amounts of content now. So it's just this fire hose of like everything out there, from job seekers to people selling to just people looking to be influential. Jeff.
Yeah, the old adage is, content is king, right? But that still holds true in a lot of different ways, but the important part is, again, we could talk about it probably for its own separate hour, but identifying and understanding the audience in which you're going after and the way in which they consume media. when you're going after, in our case, let's say sophisticated supply chain executives, what they look for in content or they look for in ads or the activities that they take are vastly different than that entry-level dock worker or somebody who's, you know, more new to this space, who is probably trying to educate themselves and learn. So they may not even understand like what is middle mile, and they may Google something like that. And they need to see content related to explanation, where the seasoned executive is not doing that. They're looking for something to hit their plate that's innovative, that's new, that they haven't seen before. And so all of this content that's created, and look, I am guilty of being a content first marketer, and I want content out there, and it goes into SEO, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But there's a very, you know, I tell my teams and the people I work with, every piece of content needs to have a specific audience in mind. You can't have content for the sake of content. It needs to be, if you're creating this, who is the intended audience? And then most importantly, and how are we going to measure? Excuse me, how are we going to measure that?
And just to add one point to that, it's super important to know where your prospects are hanging out on the web, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Google or whatever these are. You have to know where your prospects are.
And,
yeah, it's
and
interesting.
And use those channels and invest your advertisement.
And I'll just add to that, you know, I've created a lot of content that has been put in Freight Waves and multiple other supply chain publications. And while on the one hand, like, you know, the initial thought process was, wow, Freight Waves has the biggest audience, like that's going to get us the most, you know, bang for your buck or have the most impact. It actually turned out to be the opposite, where some of the smaller, more, you know, kind of specialized or niche publications, you know, those are the places where our content was resonating because of the smaller audience and the more targeted audience. Our message came through in a much stronger way than the potential Freight Waves audience, which is, you know, kind of all different levels of supply chain. And so it kind of goes back to exactly what you just said, Charlie. It's know who you're getting this in front of and where they're spending their time.
Yeah, exactly. And just one point to add to Sam's comment, that Google is probably one of the best, if not the best platform, because those who click on those ads are already in buying mode. They are looking for a solution to whatever problem they have. So those person are way too closer to making a decision on buying on anything.
Right. And it sounds like, especially audience targeting specifically, you're looking at, I mean, if you're trying to recruit, let's say, truck drivers for new jobs versus buyers for a TMS, for instance, it's a very different audience in very different places that you'll find them. And we started going into content marketing a bit more, but I wanted to kind of touch on SEO and how that's looking nowadays, especially because it seems like Google is always changing the rules, always changing the algorithm. And how do you, how do you work on that strategy? And it seems like it's like had already been said, there was a flood of content or a fire hose of content nowadays. So how do you keep ahead of that, and how do you work your keyword strategies? And I know, Charlie, you had a lot of thoughts on this when we first discussed it.
Actually, you know, it's funny. I was at a CMO virtual conference last Friday. We had an SEO expert who is an AI expert come on, and the tools now are so incredible. Like you can literally, I'll get this use case completely, not completely right, but they were able to load in your value proposition, load in your website, load in your competitor's website, and then also register your target personas and what they care about. And literally, not only did it score based on all of the different, top keywords and long tail, how you do versus your competitors, it will then also go back and rewrite it. And so these tools are just getting so much easier. I think that one of the challenges right now for marketing, digital marketing and CMOs, is how do you make sense of it all? Because there's just so many places to optimize. So SEO is always critical. It's as important as filling pipeline. But if you don't have a digital innovation team or somebody on your team who's leading the charge across these tools, then that's a big miss in my view.
Yeah,
We do
and Jeff,
lots of SEO optimized content. We create lots of content. The challenge is that there's a super fine line between writing a piece for your intended audience or writing a piece for SEO and Google. And when you go, that's my personal experience. If I go to a website and I can see that this piece wasn't written for me, that was written for Google, I leave it immediately. So there's a super fine line between writing for your audience and writing for Google.
I think that
a quick reminder to everyone, we will be taking questions at the end, so please do continue to submit them. And sorry to interrupt you, Sam.
That's all right. I was just saying that's a brilliant point. We had our sales and marketing offsite last week, and I pointed out to the team, we have one of our competitors or alternatives to Turvo, and going through doing tons of SEO research, seeing where we stack rank amongst that group of competitors. And this one really stuck out as being far and above everybody else in terms of web traffic. We'll come to find out they have a directory on their website. And I thought that's really cool. We should have a carrier directory on their website. And I thought that's really cool. We should have that. And my VP of marketing said, yeah, but those aren't buyers, right? They're just getting a bunch of people looking for a carrier. I'm like, good point, right? So maybe we need a directory of the type of buyers that we're looking for, but it was brilliant because they're getting the traffic through having those keywords in that directory. So kudos to whoever did that. But I thought it was really interesting because, to your point, Charlie, it's great to be optimized for search, but are you finding the right people, and are they going to convert into your funnel, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the word balance really comes to play here. Sam, that's a great example. I'm guilty of it. At Flock Freight, we built part of our website was literally a freight dictionary, just because we wanted to rank for SEO keywords when somebody, like I said before, doesn't know what middle mile is, doesn't understand what a 3PL is. When you Google what is a 3PL, we would show up because we had a dictionary that literally just had an answer. A 3PL is a blank, blank, blank. And so that was intended to get website traffic, knowing that probably most people are not our intended qualified audience. But it also helped us with brand recognition. We wanted to just find new ways, especially as a young startup, a company that was trying to, kind of get into a crowded market. How do you build some sort of name recognition? And so it was the balance of web traffic and brand impressions versus the really tailored content for SEO purposes that would really dive deeper into that, who our audience is and what content might they look for and how do we get in front of them. So kudos to your competitor for doing that. Those are often, a big effort in terms of time, but yield probably not the leads, but certainly some brand recognition and other things. So there's always that balance.
And I guess people always remember when you are the one that taught them something. So if they ever become a buyer later on, then that's top of mind. So to take it off the digital world and go into more of the physical, we want to talk about events and event marketing and using events to fill the pipeline. And what are your strategies around that? What's been working best for you? And we'll start with Sam on that.
Sure. So at Turvo, we're a small, lean team. We have to be pretty strategic about the events that we're, hand selecting and really putting our dollars into. And so we typically do somewhere between 3 to 5 shows a year. And that gives my marketing team, and we're lean. There's 4 of us, including me, on the team. That gives us the time to really focus on pre, during, and post-event marketing. And I think the pre is the most important. Getting ahead, months ahead of the campaign for that event and scheduling those meetings for your reps ahead of time is so important. if you just show up, you're not going to get the leads that you expected. And trade shows are such an investment. When I look at digital compared to shows, I mean, it kind of makes me want to pull. I'm a digital first marketer. So events are kind of, you know, one of those things you have to spend the money to get the brand out there and be where your competitors are. But to get the money out of it and to get a return, you really have to invest the time before the event.
Totally.
Well, what's your strategy around that, would you say, when you have these like a month ahead of time? How does that typically look for you?
Yeah, so it's getting the time with the sales team. So alignment with the sales reps and understanding who's going to be there, who was there last year, when do we get the list for the show, right? Setting up that email campaign, setting up that account-based one-to-one approach through our BDR team, right? Who's reaching out to who, dividing that list, and really being strategic about understanding who our key prospects are, building profiles for those folks, knowing where they'll be during the event, and running that campaign, you know, kind of in alignment with sales. And that partnership with sales is critical.
Charlie P., you were going to say something.
Yeah, well, we help our clients a lot to find the right event and events for them, and we do events ourselves as well. And we have a couple of criteria that we want to check out even before we pick up the phone and talk to the event organizer. One is that we want to see who visited the event last year to make sure that the prospects who we are after match the profile of those who visited the event last year. Second, that we found super helpful if and when an event has an app, because you by using that app, we could reach out to people, and just like Sam said, we can set up one-on-one meetings with participants, and that's critical. I second you, Sam. That's one of the most critical point in any event, that you have to have booked meeting, 5 or 10 booked meeting a day per person at every event. If you just go out and hope for the best, I guarantee one thing: you will get nothing, because these shows are so busy, so crowded, you will not find anyone. So these two things are critical even before we pick up the phone or send an email and see how much it costs and all the logistics around an event. We always start with this.
Charlie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to build on what Sam said, you know, the relationship with sales is super important, but it's also really important to be a leader and to set the tone and the direction for the entire team that's going to an event. I look at it as almost like idle time. You know, the Gartner Supply Chain Expo Hall usually is open multiple days, and so people are sitting around idle. Other shows are different. And so depending on the show, like, think about every ounce of energy for all the people that are there, and are they able to maximize it? So I was at a C-level event last month where the expo hall was closed. My marketing team decided to go into the sessions and take notes. So they had a Slack channel and a shared Word document where they're actually listening to the panelists talk about their business problems, what they're planning for next year. And all of that intel was going right back to the account reps. And so it's, instead of just going back to your hotel room, doing some work or whatever, staying at the booth, even though the expo hall is closed, like, how do you eliminate idle time, maximize every ounce of energy from the team that's on the ground?
So to go along with these trade shows and events, what's everyone's thoughts on post-event meetups, events like hosting a party type of a thing, or a meet and greet, or a happy hour? And how do you pick your people you're inviting? Do you have specific targets? Is it industry wide, or would love to hear your thoughts on that? And we can start with Jeff.
Yeah, so, just like everything we're talking about, like everything, it should be tailored towards the persona and the audience in mind. Now, conferences do afford an opportunity to have events, kind of, the nightly, bar meetup, or sponsor some sort of, kind of gathering or dinner, because hopefully, if you're, again, to Charlie P's point before, you're at the right conference with the right audience, then the decision makers and the people that you want to connect with are there. I've seen everything from the we're going to host a happy hour, all are invited, approach, to the intimate dinner where we're going to have, 10 people that we've hand selected. And in this case, I feel that the, more intimate is the better approach. And that's mostly because it allows you to get to know people on a deeper level. Like you said earlier, John, people buy from people, and so that's what this opportunity affords. After a long day at a conference, to be able to sit at a table, have a conversation, enjoy a nice meal, talk about both work but personal lives, get to know people. And I also think this is a great opportunity, if there's press at an event, to add someone from outside, from the press pool, a reporter or writer from a publication that you hope will either cover you or cover one of your partners, or someone that you just want to get to know you and see you as a subject matter expert. That's also a great way to do it, because there's probably nothing a reporter loves more than being invited to an intimate dinner with, let's say, 8 other, really seasoned executives, where they're now getting, it's almost like you're helping them build the connections for themselves for the stories that they're going to write. So it's a great both business generation standpoint, as well as that, potential PR win down the road.
That makes sense. Sam, would love your thoughts as well.
Yeah, we have done several of these in unison with the trade shows that we've sponsored. And I think for us, when you're at a show like a FreightWaves event where there are thousands of people, or CSCMP, or, it's easy to get lost in a sea of vendors. So it gives you the opportunity to invite those 50 key people that you really want in the room. And going back to that pre-event campaign, it's the same thing, right? It takes a month or 2 of planning and strategizing. How do we get those 30 to 50 key people in the room to get that VIP audience, those prospects that we want sitting side by side with our partners, with our executive team. So we've had good success with doing kind of those happy hours / dinners around the trade shows. I think it goes back to the planning, and to Jeff's point, really understanding the audience and the right people that you need in the room.
Yeah, just one more point here, and Sam also mentioned it in the beginning. Don't forget about the post-event follow-ups. Reach out to people, even if they were not immediate business opportunities. Build those relationships and follow up. Take the time, take the efforts. Thanks for them for meeting or whatever happened between you and them. But follow up. Every event, just like Sam said earlier, should be a campaign. It's not a one-off project. That's a campaign. It's a whole month or even more than a month campaign. And again, don't forget about following up with people who you met or didn't meet, because that's another opportunity to reach out. Hey, we wanted to connect, but we didn't have time or whatever. That's an opportunity for you to reach out and build new relationships. And again, Jeff, even if we are in a B2B space, people sell to people. It's a personal related, everything about personal relationships.
Well, Jeff mentioned this is a good segue here with inviting journalists. So I'd like to kind of discuss PR and press, and really what are your thoughts around PR as a funnel generation or a way of getting people in the door, or just general thoughts here? And I would like to start with Charlie. You.
Yeah, the old question about PR: is it worth doing or is it not worth doing? Years ago, I was with the CMO of HubSpot before they went public, and he said, I fired all my PR people and I replaced them all with content people. And now when you search for anything related to digital marketing, you end up at HubSpot.com. And I think the answer is not, it's it's not the nirvana. It's also not something that should be ignored if you have an opportunity. I think actually the smart, like anything in marketing, it's like being thoughtful. It's like, where are the conversations happening? What do you have to say to the market that, to Jeff's point earlier, resonates and is relevant with those people? And fortunately or not, in terms of PR, it's all about relationships. It's all about credibility and people. And are you helpful to them? Not what are you trying to peddle? Like your latest product launch or your new feature or your new AI add-on to blah, blah, blah is like really not as important to a journalist as, oh, no, I've got some key information because it is informative to what you're writing about or you're curious about. And so, I guess my point of view, where I've had great luck is if there's an overlap between what people are writing about and would get value from, and what you as a company and as a thought leader are able to provide to the market. Well, that's the beginning of a PR program. Not everyone can do it. Not everybody wants to do it. By the way, a lot of executives and CEOs don't really understand PR, and so as a marketing leader, that can be a challenge. But I think from an awareness perspective, if you have a thought leadership platform opportunity, you should go after it. And PR is one of the great ways to do it.
My view on PR is that I believe that public relations is the most overlooked and underappreciated elements of any sales campaign, because you want to reach your prospects even before they are ready to buy. When your prospects are reading about your business, about your executives in the media, that will validate that your business is worth a look, worth a call, and worth a meeting. And again, we are coming back to Jeff's point. It's all about personal relationships and trust. Just think about this multi-level marketing businesses such as Amway. One of the key to their success is that the buyer trusts the seller. You as a buyer trust your friends, trust your neighbor, trust your family members, and that's the exact trust that you can build via PR. Obviously, again, we are keep coming back to one of the main points, that it should be part of a campaign. So do not throw out a press release and expect people flooding in the door and flooding into your sales funnel. It's like, just imagine this. You are walking in Times Square in New York. You walk to someone, say hello, give your business cards to her, and you expect her to call you back in 2 days. Like, will they call back? Obviously not. The same with PR. That should be part of a project, part of a long campaign to build trust and build brand awareness.
Absolutely. And we will be starting the QA here in just a minute. So if you'd like to submit more questions, we have a handful. On the PR topic, would love to get Jeff's thoughts as well.
Yeah, so I mean, both Charlies kind of teed it up really, really well. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see, when I talk to my clients, when, throughout my career, is the idea that, oh, we'll just do a press release. And a lot of times people associate a press release with PR. And that is probably the most backwards way of looking at PR, right? Like, I know press release that, has PR in its, in its abbreviation. It's not the same. And so to your points, Charlie, I love PR. I like to do as much of it as I can because I think it does build that brand awareness, that top of funnel, generating some sort of, understanding of who you are and what you're about. But most importantly, we talked, a little bit about that, thought leadership piece. People want to buy from other people who inspire them. And if you are reading about founder X who has these great views on an industry or a challenge facing an industry or a solution that he's building to solve, this systemic problem in an industry, then you get drawn to that. And so your likelihood to either, I'm not necessarily buy, but your likelihood to engage, to learn more, to ask for a demo goes up considerably when you are like, hey, I saw what he or she said, that resonates with me. I respect their thought leadership. That's somebody I want to connect with. So PR allows you to do that in a non-marketing way where you're just creating content of like, here's a letter from our co-founder, or a video you put on your website of your co-founder speaking or your founder speaking. This is thought leadership in mainstream publications that yields considerably more awareness for the individual, and from the individual then to the business.
Absolutely. So we'd love to start getting into the questions here that we have from the audience. And the first one is, what aspects of marketing are the ripest for outsourcing to external agencies? What do you like to keep in-house, and what do you like to contract out, and why? Sam.
Oh, good question. So I think it really depends on your team, right? You kind of have to look at the skill set of your in-house team, understand where you have strengths. And for us, we partner with Charlie's agency on content marketing, and it's been a really great partnership. I think the other thing to look for when finding the right agency or the right freelancer is a partnership versus an agency kind of cold relationship. You know that they're going to learn and understand your business as well as your internal employees. And I think that's really important. So we've had good luck outsourcing content, and that's our blog and our social media. That doesn't mean that that's right for everyone. I think it really depends on the team that you have in-house.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too. I mean, I'm a fractional CMO, so my life is outsourced. But I get this question all the time from my clients and people I talk to. And from my perspective, because I work with startups, it's less about the skill, and it's also about the individuals, because usually they don't have marketing teams per se, but more so about the timing. Where are they in the stage of their startup? What do they need to move from where they're at, let's say a pre-seed or pre-series A, to the next level? Because most of these startups, they can't afford multiple full-time employees. So it becomes less of a question of skill set and more of a question related to what are the capabilities that that organization needs today that hopefully can be solved with outsourced help. And then over time, you start to think, okay, well, now we probably have a need for a full-time content writer, a full-time digital marketer, a full-time designer, and start to bring in-house the capabilities that you are recognizing are key to the business.
Two key things. One is that Sam touched upon is the partnership, and not just a cold business relationship. We've been working with large businesses, with large marketing teams, in-house marketing teams. And it happens many times that people outside of the core marketing team do not even know that we are not employed by the company. And it happened all the time. Like, oh, you're not employed by this and that company? No, we are just helping you guys out here and there. So the integration is so critical. So you should look for agencies in a way that is an extension of your internal team. And the second that's critical and help our clients a lot is practically an unlimited access to resources as and when you need them. All of my colleagues are C-level executives at small or medium or large enterprises, or business owners themselves. We worked for a relatively large unicorn, and it happened that one month we worked 20 hours or 20 days for them. The next month we only worked 5 hours or 5 days because that's only what they needed. So we could be so flexible, and we could help them in and where they needed. That was a super smooth riding for both of us.
I'd like to get into the next one here, which is how can a business overcome the lack of data when generating a pipeline? So Charlie, you.
HubSpot.
Oh, well, that's a perilous place to be. And if you don't have data to generate pipeline, you're in big trouble. Yeah, listen, the company, so I mentioned the companies that I advise, some of the work that I do, largely the most important one is funnel optimization. And with optimization, you need data to understand what's going on. And by the way, the signals that you get from intent platforms are so much better than they were a year ago. And so you can do much more sophisticated marketing than you could ever do before. So a couple things just to make it practical for the audience. One is to really evaluate your MQL model. I was talking to a new company last week where they have the old school way of looking at what's a qualified lead. Is it in the ICP? Does the person look like the person I want to market to? And they have it baked in their intent, which is a big red flag, because you don't know whether, the person that walked up to Charlie Pesti as he was letting people in the door at that event, they're all different levels of intent. And so to bake that into the MQL model, which is part of your data set, is a big misnomer. I usually pull intent out because it's so much easier to do so with account-based marketing platforms like 6 Sense and a lot of the tools that you have there. The other practical thing I think is around attribution. There's been a lot of talk about this on LinkedIn. Old school marketers look at attribution as what does marketing get credit for in terms of sourcing pipeline? Whereas what really needs to happen is your entire go-to-market team, including sales, marketing, and sales development, all are working together in terms of the number of people that they're contacting inside of what's called a buying group inside of a company. And unless you're not, thinking about buying groups and attribution, not about credit, but also about sophistication of engagement, that's another missed opportunity. So data, like if you don't have data for pipeline, it's run from the building fast, fix it and come back. Yeah.
We'll jump to the next one here. How do you reduce the cost of generating a pipeline? What gets the most bang for the buck? And we can do a quick kind of roundabout here and start with Sam.
Website, organic traffic. I mean, work on your website. It's the foundation.
Jeff?
I mean, I can't disagree with Sam at all. So nothing.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a pretty universal agreement there. Is quickest bang for the buck is work on your own website. And Charlie P?
Definitely. The other thing, obviously, I'm a bit biased, and forgive me for that. As a business or budget owner, you intelligently have to deploy and invest dollars intelligently into projects and into resources. You have to make sure that the areas you invest will grow your business. You make a good decision and you are on top of the world. You make a bad decision, your job might be on the line, or worse, you lose your business. One of the best investments in PR and marketing is outsourcing functions to an agency. That will get you the best return on investment because of many different reasons we talked about earlier. And one of them is access to unlimited resources, executive level resources, as and when you need them. You can scale. The agency will help you scale the business as you grow, and they can help you along the way.
So next up, another quick one. How, other than LinkedIn, are there any other suitable social media channels out there for this type of B2B audience? Charlie, you.
I think it gets back to where your persona is going. Again, it's like if you're where are people getting their information? If they're getting on LinkedIn, that's great. One thing I learned from my LinkedIn account team last week was that video posts are the most popular right now, and it changes so fast. So, if you're thinking about putting out your next PDF out there and gating it, you might want to think about upping your game in terms of video shorts and clips that get you noted. Not to put in a infomercial here for Charlie P here, but that's the kind of reason that you engage with an agency that can do content and communications, is they can take your content, your ideas, and then put creative elements around it. They can create videos, they can create sound, they can host webinars. Your content is like the turkey after Thanksgiving. You turn it into soup, you turn it into sandwiches. That's the thing that you need to be thinking about your content. So LinkedIn's great, but content form factors are super important.
I think that's kind of a universal agreement. I mean, we had touched on it a little bit earlier, was if you're going after truck drivers, you're probably not going on LinkedIn for them. So you're going to find them where they're going to be using it: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, what have you. Yeah.
YouTube.
Another really good one here. It was mentioned that partnering with a third-party publications that are smaller versus like a larger one, like a FreightWaves, for instance, tends to yield a better ROI and engagement. How do you measure that, and what tactics work the best? Content syndication with an email blast, sponsoring webinars, co-authoring articles, etc. What are we noticing here?
Yeah, so that was something that I had mentioned earlier. First of all, in terms of measuring it, when you're doing content creation on another partner website, you hope and obviously would like to have great analytics in place, so you can see the traffic that comes over. You can also then see not just in terms of traffic, but then does that traffic turn into leads and any sort of activity on the website. There's also the very old school way of, how did you hear about us? When your sales team gets on a call, or usually people offer up some of this information, especially if there's a piece of content that really resonated with them. In terms of the tactics, all the things that were mentioned here, Ryan, are well within the scope of what you want to accomplish. The thing about sponsorships is, if you go to any publication and you see this article is brought to you by, it does kind of take away a little bit of that credibility, because it's very obviously like, I paid to put it there. And so it's not necessarily a thought leadership piece. It's just a very long-winded advertisement. And so it is co-authoring things, adding value to the other publication. Again, when you sponsor, one thing, you might get written about on the other. So there's a lot of balance to strike in terms of creating these relationships within these publications, so that you do get written about without the need for a sponsored content. You do help them by hosting or co-hosting or sponsoring events and other things to build that deeper relationship between the organization and the publication.
But do your homework. Make sure that the publication or publications you want to partner with reaches your target audience. We heard many horror stories that a company partnered up with one of the largest media outlets out there, and the media outlet guaranteed and provided X hundred MQLs by the end of the project, but that X hundred MQLs were rubbish because they were not the targeted audience, right? So they didn't reach who they wanted to reach. So it's not all about the numbers, and not all about the promises for the numbers, but about the quality of those who you work with.
Absolutely. And we've got time for one more here. And what are the key internal roles within a marketing team, and which tasks can be feasibly outsourced to a company with approximately 80 employees, or for a company with 80 employees?
I mean, I'll just say one thing. I love sports analogies, so I'll make a sports analogy. I think any organization, they need a quarterback, right? Somebody who's going to dictate the plays, somebody who's going to facilitate all of the other roles within the marketing team. Yes, you need great wide receivers and running backs and people to block for you, but you need that one person who is setting the strategy and partnering with the key executives on the sales organization, or any other parts of the executive team or leadership teams to really understand the business, and then goes out and finds the solutions that they need to accomplish the goal. Now, again, self-promotion as a fractional CMO, that's what I do as that quarterback for organizations that don't have the budget or the need for a full-time CMO. But that point, like the quarterback role, to me, if you're going to bring one thing in-house, to kind of really start kicking things off, it's who ultimately is setting the marketing strategy for the organization.
Sam, any thoughts?
I agree with that. I mean, I think you have to have the quarterback. My last 3 or 4 jobs, I have come in and built the team from scratch, being that quarterback. You really have to have somebody that can come in, understand the product marketing function, what's happening in the product roadmap, what's happening in the rest of the organization, where does marketing fit? I also strongly believe you've got to give marketing a seat at the table. If you want to really see success in marketing, they need a seat at the table, they being whoever that quarterback is, right? We need alignment with the rest of the executive team and buy-in, because you do have to make some investment to eventually see return, and you've got to have trust in the person that you put in that quarterback seat. So I agree with Jeff wholeheartedly.
Charlie, you?
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think, Jeff, you probably agree with this, as fractional marketing executives, we don't have the luxury of time to get to know the market for 6 months and figure out corporate strategy. Putting numbers on the board is really, really important, not erratically, but thoughtfully. And you can do that today with the right partnership with sales, to Jeff's point, with the right structure around your go-to-market plan. And then once you have that, the bare bones of that, then you can figure out what resources you need, whether they're an agency like Pesti, a couple people on the team, and usually a blend of both.
Yeah, I just want to add another point here that if you partner up with the right agency, you should expect them to be thought leaders and lead you and help you. If you have to give instructions all the time and every time, and you have to instruct them what to do, how to do it, then you partnered with the wrong partner. You have to find someone who understands your business, understands your industry, have new ideas, new ways of doing things, and will create value for you. If you expect them to be just followers and follow your leads, forget it. You partner with the wrong agency or your wrong person.
Well, we appreciate everyone's thoughts and insights on this and the questions. I apologize for any of the ones that we didn't get to. There was one on government that we could have an entire webinar about how to sell to government. I feel like that's a very long and detailed topic. I want to thank our panelists for being a part of this. Thank the audience for signing up and being here today. And the recording will be sent out. So if there's any any further questions, we'd love for anyone on the panel to be reached out to. And thank you again for being here, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.